Hello, and welcome to Cats for Sleep. Tonight, we begin a long, gentle journey into the world of Persian cats. Not just the way they look today, resting quietly on couches and windowsills, but the deeper story of how they came to be, where their long coats first appeared, how they moved across continents, and how human curiosity slowly shaped them into one of the most recognizable cat breeds in the world. The story of the Persian cat begins long before modern cat shows, breed standards, or veterinary charts. It starts in regions historically associated with Persia, known today as Iran, where long-haired cats were noted as unusual and striking, compared to the short-haired cats common across much of the world. In warmer climates, long fur is not an obvious advantage, which made these cats stand out to early travelers and naturalists. Their coats were dense, soft, and slow-moving in the breeze, giving them an appearance that felt deliberate and almost ornamental. One of the earliest documented introductions of long-haired cats to Europe comes from the early 17th century. An Italian traveler named Pietro della Valle is credited with bringing long-haired cats from the Khorasan region of Persia to Italy around the year 1620. These cats were not yet called Persians in a strict sense. At the time, European observers often grouped long-haired cats together under broad labels, sometimes referring to them as Angoras, after the region now known as Ankara in Turkey. The distinctions between different long-haired populations were blurred, shaped more by trade routes and storytelling than by biology. As these cats spread across Europe, they became objects of fascination. Their coats required more care. Their movements appeared slower and more composed. They contrasted sharply with the agile, short-haired cats commonly seen in barns, streets, and ships. Rather than being valued primarily for pest control, long-haired cats began to occupy quieter, more decorative roles within homes. By the 18th and 19th centuries, long-haired cats were firmly established in European households, especially among wealthier families. They appeared in paintings, private journals, and eventually early animal exhibitions. It was during this period that selective breeding began to play a larger role. People favored cats with fuller coats, rounder faces, and calmer temperaments. Over generations, these preferences slowly narrowed the look of the Persian cat. If you're enjoying this slow exploration of cats and their histories, you're always welcome to subscribe to Cats for Sleep. And if you're comfortable, leave a comment on where you're listening from tonight. It helps this quiet space continue, and it ensures you'll be able to return whenever you're ready to rest with another long, peaceful story. As cat shows gained popularity in the late 19th century, especially in England, the Persian cat began to emerge as a defined breed. Queen Victoria herself was known to keep Persian cats, which further elevated their status. During this time, breeders emphasized consistency. They selected for shorter legs, broader bodies, rounder heads, and increasingly luxurious coats. The Persian was becoming less a regional cat and more a carefully shaped companion animal. When Persian cats were introduced to North America in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they were already associated with elegance and calm domestic life. Early American cat registries quickly recognized the breed, and Persian cats soon became one of the most popular pedigreed cats in the United States. Their popularity helped solidify the idea of the Persian as a distinctly indoor companion. valued for presence rather than performance. It is important to understand that the Persian cat, as we know it today, is not a frozen image from ancient history. It is the result of centuries of gradual change, guided by human preference, environment, and culture. The long coat that once seemed rare and curious became central to the breed's identity. The rounded features that feel familiar today were slowly refined through selective breeding. This long history sets the stage for everything that follows. The Persians' anatomy, their health considerations, their temperament, and the routines that shape daily life with them. As we continue, we'll move gently forward from history into structure, biology, and the quiet rhythms that define the Persian cat's experience today. For now, let this early story settle. A long-haired cat arriving in a new land, a household growing quieter around them, and a companionship that would continue, unhurried, for centuries. As Persian cats became more common in European homes, something subtle but important began to happen. Humans started to make choices about which cats should reproduce and which traits were most desirable to keep. At first, these choices were informal. People gravitated toward cats with softer coats, calmer behavior, or rounder features simply because they enjoyed living with them. Long-haired cats were often kept indoors, brushed more frequently, and handled more gently than their short-haired counterparts. This alone began to shape temperament, favoring cats that tolerated close contact and quieter environments. Over time, selective breeding became more intentional. Long-haired cats from Persia were bred with other long-haired cats already present in Europe, including those commonly referred to as Turkish Angoras. The boundaries between these populations were not clearly defined at first. Instead, breeders worked toward a general idea of what a luxury cat should feel like to live with. Physical traits slowly shifted. Bodies became shorter and broader. Legs grew sturdier. Heads became rounder, with fuller cheeks and larger, more forward-facing eyes. Coats grew denser and more uniform, with underlayers that trapped warmth and created the thick, plush texture now closely associated with Persians. By the late 19th century, cat shows introduced structure and standardization. Written breed standards described ideal body proportions, head shape, and coat characteristics. Judges rewarded cats that best matched these ideals, reinforcing specific traits generation after generation. This marked a turning point, where human preference became a powerful shaping force rather than a gentle influence. One of the most noticeable outcomes of this process was facial structure. Early Persian cats had longer noses and profiles that more closely resembled other domestic cats. As breeding continued, some lines emphasized a shorter face, flatter nose, and more pronounced stop between the eyes. These features created the modern, flat-faced appearance that many people now associate with show Persians. At the same time, not all breeders pursued this extreme. Some continued to favor what is often referred to as the doll-face Persian, with a longer nose and more traditional facial proportions. Both forms trace back to the same breed history, shaped by different aesthetic priorities rather than separate origins. Selective breeding also expanded the Persians' visual diversity. Breeders developed a wide range of coat colors and patterns, including solid colors, shaded coats, smoke patterns, tabbies, bicolors, and pointed varieties. Each variation was catalogued and grouped into color divisions, adding further structure to the breed's presentation in shows and registries. One notable result of this experimentation was the development of the Himalayan, also known as the color point Persian. This variation came from breeding Persians with Siamese cats, combining the Persian's long coat and body type with pointed coloration. Though visually distinct, these cats are considered part of the Persian family in many registries, highlighting how flexible breed boundaries became under human direction. Temperament was shaped alongside appearance. Persian cats were consistently selected for calmness, tolerance, and low reactivity. Cats that startled easily, vocalized excessively, or resisted handling were less likely to be chosen for breeding. Over generations, this reinforced a quieter, more reserved disposition that fits well with indoor living. It is important to recognize that none of these changes happen quickly. Selective breeding works slowly, across many generations, with small shifts accumulating over time. The Persian cat did not suddenly become what it is today. Instead, it gradually moved in that direction as human environments, expectations, and aesthetics evolved. This process also introduced trade-offs. As certain physical traits became more pronounced, they brought structural changes that would later influence health, comfort, and daily care. The same features that made Persians visually distinctive also shaped how they breathe, groom themselves, and interact with their surroundings. Understanding selective breeding helps explain why the Persian cat feels so distinct today. Its appearance, temperament, and lifestyle are not accidents of nature. They are the result of centuries of close coexistence with humans, guided by preference, care, and an ongoing desire for quiet companionship. This foundation will help everything else make sense as we continue exploring the Persian cat's body, habits, and long-term experience. When people picture a Persian cat, they often imagine softness before anything else. A thick coat that seems to spill outward rather than lie flat. A rounded body that looks settled even when standing. A face that appears calm, almost resting, regardless of mood. This impression is not accidental. The Persian's appearance is the result of many small visual traits working together, each reinforcing the sense of stillness and weight that defines the breed. At the center of this look is the coat. Persian cats have one of the longest and densest coats of any domestic cat. The fur grows in layers, with a fine undercoat beneath longer guard hairs. This structure gives the coat volume rather than sleekness, causing it to lift away from the body and create a rounded outline. Unlike short-haired cats, where muscle and bone are easily visible, the Persian's form is softened by fur in nearly every direction. The coat covers the entire body evenly, including the chest, belly, legs, and tail. Around the neck, the fur often forms a thick ruff that frames the face and adds to the impression of fullness. The tail is long and heavily plumed, carried low or gently curved, rather than held upright. Even when the cat is alert, the coat dampens sharp lines, making movement appear slower and more deliberate. Beneath the fur, the Persian's body structure reinforces this rounded appearance. Persians have what is often described as a cobby body type. The torso is short and broad, with a wide chest and solid bone structure. Legs are relatively short and sturdy, keeping the body close to the ground. This gives the cat a low center of gravity and contributes to its stable, grounded posture. The head continues this theme of roundness. The skull is broad, with a domed shape when viewed from the side. Cheeks are full, especially in adults, and the jaw is short and wide. The ears are small to medium in size and set far apart, blending into the overall curve of the head rather than breaking it with sharp angles. Eyes play a large role in the Persian's expression. They are large, round, and widely spaced, positioned low on the face. This placement gives the cat an open, gentle gaze that many people interpret as calm or contemplative. Eye color varies widely depending on coat color and pattern, ranging from deep copper and gold to blue and green. In many Persians, the eyes appear almost oversized relative to the face, further softening their expression. The nose and facial profile vary depending on breeding lines. Some Persians have a longer nose with a gentle slope, while others have a very short nose with a pronounced stop between the eyes. Both types share the same foundational features of a broad face and short muzzle, but the degree of flatness changes the overall look significantly. Regardless of profile, the face maintains a compact, rounded shape. Color is another defining aspect of the Persian look. Few breeds display such a wide range of coat colors and patterns. Persians can be solid-colored, shaded, smoke-patterned, tabby, bicolor, tricolor, or color point. Some coats appear almost luminous, with lighter tips over a darker base, while others are rich and uniform. This diversity means that two Persian cats can look very different at first glance, yet still share the same underlying structure. Despite this variety, the breed maintains a consistent visual identity. The long coat, rounded body, and gentle facial features act as a unifying framework. Even when shaved for practical reasons, a Persian's compact build and head shape remain recognizable. The overall effect of the Persian look is one of quiet presence. These cats do not appear built for speed or sharp agility. Their bodies suggest comfort, stability, and rest. When a Persian settles into a space, it often looks as though it belongs there, filling the area without tension or urgency. This appearance has influenced how people interact with Persians for generations. They are often approached more gently, handled more slowly, observed rather than chased. Their look invites a quieter form of companionship, where stillness is not mistaken for absence, but understood as a natural state. Understanding the Persian look is not just about aesthetics. It provides context for how these cats move, rest, and experience the world around them. The same features that create their distinctive appearance also shape their daily rhythms and physical needs, quietly guiding the way they live alongside humans. Before a Persian cat moves, there is often a moment of stillness, a pause where the body gathers itself, not in preparation for speed, but in quiet awareness of space. This physical presence is shaped by structure as much as temperament. Persian cats have what is commonly described as a compact or cobby body type. The torso is short and broad, with a wide chest and a sense of density that becomes noticeable when the cat is at rest. Rather than appearing elongated or spring-loaded, the body feels contained, as though it belongs fully to the surface it occupies. Weight is distributed evenly across the frame. There is no visual emphasis on length or height. Instead, the body appears grounded, close to the floor, supported by short, sturdy legs. This low center of gravity contributes to the Persian's characteristic steadiness. When a Persian settles onto a cushion, a chair, or the floor, the body seems to spread outward rather than perch. Fur softens the outline, but beneath it, the structure itself encourages this sense of fullness. The chest expands gently as the cat breathes. The abdomen rests without tension. Nothing appears poised for sudden movement. The limbs are built to support weight rather than generate speed. Legs are proportionate to the body, but shorter than those of many other breeds. The bones feel solid, giving each step a quiet certainty. When a Persian walks across a room, the movement is deliberate and measured, as though the body is conserving effort rather than expending it. Paws contribute to this grounded presence. They are rounded and substantial, supporting the body evenly. When placed on a surface, they do not grip or flex dramatically. Instead, they settle, absorbing weight and stabilizing the body. The spine follows the same pattern. Rather than a long, flexible curve designed for leaping and twisting, the Persian's back appears gently arched and stable. Movement flows through the body without sharp transitions. When the cat changes position, it often does so in stages: a shift of weight, a pause, a gradual lowering or rising. This structure influences how Persians interact with their environment. They tend to choose surfaces that support their entire body, rather than narrow edges. Wide cushions, flat couches, windowsills with room to stretch. Places where they can rest fully without balancing. Jumping does occur, but it is often planned. A Persian may pause before stepping onto a chair or bed, assessing distance and surface stability. When the jump happens, it is controlled and low impact. Landing is quiet. The body absorbs the motion smoothly, without rebound. Because of this physical design, Persians often appear unhurried, even when they are alert. Their bodies do not broadcast readiness for action. Instead, they convey a sense of comfort in stillness, being present without needing to move. This presence shapes how people perceive them. A Persian resting in a room often becomes part of the space itself. They do not draw attention through motion. They do not pace or patrol. They simply remain, filling the room with a calm physical weight. When touched, this structure becomes more apparent. The body feels solid beneath the fur, not fragile or tense. Muscle tone supports posture without rigidity. The cat remains composed, even when adjusting position in response to contact. As the day unfolds, this body structure supports long periods of rest. The Persian does not need to constantly reposition to remain comfortable. Once settled, the body stays settled. Breathing remains slow and even. Limbs rest close to the torso or extend gently without strain. This physical presence is not accidental. It reflects generations of selection favoring cats that fit comfortably into quiet indoor spaces. Bodies that rest well, that move only when necessary, that occupy space without demanding it. Understanding the Persian structure helps explain much of what follows. How they move, how they rest, how they choose where to be. Before behavior, before routine. There is simply a body at ease with gravity. And in that ease, the Persian cat begins to shape the rhythm of the space around it. Movement in Persian cats is shaped by intention rather than impulse. Their bodies are capable of motion, but motion is never constant. Instead, each movement appears to be weighed against the comfort of remaining still. Throughout the day, Persians tend to conserve energy. They do not pace or patrol. They do not move simply to fill time. When they choose to move, it is usually in response to a clear reason. A shift in light, a change in temperature, the quiet arrival of a familiar person. This economy of movement begins with how Persians rise from rest. Unlike cats that spring to their feet, Persians often transition in stages. A head lifts first. Then the body stretches slowly, lengthening without urgency. Only after this pause does the cat stand, allowing weight to redistribute evenly before taking the first step. Walking itself is deliberate. Steps are placed carefully, with little excess motion. The body remains close to the ground, moving forward rather than upward. There is a sense of efficiency, as though the cat is using exactly as much energy as needed, and no more. Jumping follows a similar pattern. Persians can jump, but they prefer lower heights and wider surfaces. A couch, a bed, a sturdy chair. Before leaving the ground, they often pause, judging distance and stability. When they jump, the movement is smooth and controlled, ending in a quiet, settled landing. Climbing is approached with the same consideration. Rather than scaling tall structures or narrow shelves, Persians tend to choose routes that minimize effort. They may step from one surface to another, rather than leap directly. Stairs, ottomans, or stacked furniture become pathways rather than obstacles. This movement style reflects a broader pattern of energy conservation. Persians balance activity and rest in a way that supports long periods of comfort. Short bursts of movement are followed by extended rest. Once a task is complete, the body returns to stillness. Play, when it occurs, often mirrors this rhythm. Rather than sustained chasing, Persians may engage briefly, batting at an object or watching movement without pursuing it. Interest appears, then fades. The body settles again. This does not indicate lack of curiosity. It reflects a preference for observation over participation. Persians are often content to watch activity from a distance, tracking motion with their eyes while remaining physically still. Surface choice plays an important role in movement decisions. Persians favor stable, predictable surfaces that support their weight evenly. Soft carpets, broad cushions, and flat floors provide reassurance. Unstable or narrow surfaces are often avoided. This careful movement reduces unnecessary strain on the body. By avoiding sudden leaps or awkward landings, Persians preserve comfort across the day. Energy is spent only when the environment feels accommodating. As the day progresses, movement tends to cluster around certain times. Morning light may prompt a brief repositioning. Evening quiet may invite closer proximity to people. Between these moments, long stretches of rest dominate. Over time, this energy economy becomes part of the Persian's identity within a home. They are not expected to be constantly active. Their stillness is understood as contentment rather than boredom. This pattern also shapes how humans interact with them. Play sessions tend to be shorter and calmer. Handling is slower. Expectations adjust naturally to the cat's rhythm. As Persians age, This economy of movement often becomes more pronounced, but the pattern itself remains familiar. The cat does not suddenly change character. It simply deepens into the same rhythm it has always followed. Understanding this movement style helps reframe stillness as choice rather than limitation. Persians are not inactive because they cannot move. They are still because they do not need to. Each movement serves a purpose. Each pause is part of the design. In this balance between motion and rest, the Persian cat maintains a steady internal rhythm that aligns naturally with quiet indoor life. Movement happens, then it ends, and stillness returns, unbroken, ready to hold the next moment. For Persian cats, sleep is not something that fills the spaces between activity. It is the foundation around which the day is built. Everything else happens in the margins. Across a typical day, Persians spend many hours resting or sleeping. Some of this time is deep, unmoving sleep. Much of it is lighter rest, where the body is relaxed, but awareness remains. Eyes may close halfway. Ears continue to register sound. The body remains ready to shift position if needed, but without urgency. Persians tend to fall into long, uninterrupted rest periods. Once settled, they are unlikely to wake repeatedly or change position often. The body relaxes fully into the surface beneath it, distributing weight evenly and reducing pressure points. This allows rest to continue without disruption. Sleeping positions reflect comfort and stability. Many Persians sleep with their limbs tucked close to the body, conserving warmth and creating a compact shape. Others stretch gently, extending a foreleg or rolling slightly onto one side. Regardless of position, the body appears loose rather than tense. The environment strongly influences where rest takes place. Persians often choose locations that offer softness, warmth, and a sense of enclosure. Cushions, beds, folded blankets, and upholstered furniture are common choices. Windowsills may also be favored when they provide space to lie fully supported. Light plays a role in these choices. Morning sunlight may draw a Persian to a particular spot, where warmth spreads gradually across the fur. As the light shifts, the cat may reposition once or twice, following the warmth rather than the view. This movement is slow and deliberate, serving comfort rather than curiosity. Sound levels also matter. Persians often rest most deeply in quiet environments where background noise remains consistent. Sudden sounds may cause a brief alert response, but it is usually mild. Once the environment settles again, the cat returns to rest quickly. Sleep is distributed across the entire day, rather than concentrated at night. Persians do not strictly follow human sleep cycles. They rest in the morning, afternoon, evening, and night, adjusting to household rhythms without being driven by them. During waking moments between sleep, Persians often remain in a state of relaxed alertness. They may open their eyes, observe quietly, and then drift back into rest without standing or moving. These transitions are smooth, with no sharp boundary between being awake and asleep. This pattern of rest supports the Persian's overall sense of calm. Energy is conserved. The body is rarely pushed to fatigue. Sleep restores without urgency. Resting surfaces tend to remain consistent over time. Many Persians develop a small collection of preferred sleeping spots. They return to these places repeatedly, reinforcing familiarity and comfort. A favorite cushion or corner may be used day after day. As Persians grow older, sleep becomes even more central. Rest periods lengthen. Movement between sleeping spots becomes less frequent. However, the quality of rest often remains high when the environment continues to support comfort. Rest also plays a social role. Persians may choose to sleep near people, sharing space without seeking interaction. The presence of familiar sounds and scents contributes to a sense of security that deepens rest. In shared spaces, a resting Persian often influences the atmosphere of the room. Movement slows, voices soften. The cat's stillness invites quiet. Sleep, in this sense, is not withdrawal. It is participation through presence. The Persian remains part of the environment even while resting. Understanding sleep patterns in Persians helps clarify their daily rhythm. They are not disengaged from the world. They are simply tuned to a slower pace. When rest is respected rather than interrupted, Persians remain balanced and content. They wake when they choose. They move when necessary. And they return to stillness without effort. In this gentle cycle of rest and awareness, the Persian cat maintains a steady relationship with time itself. Hours pass without friction. Moments arrive and fade, and sleep remains the quiet thread holding the day together. The Persian cat's coat is often described as luxurious, but luxury is only part of the story. This fur is not simply decoration. It is a living system that shapes how the cat experiences weight, warmth, movement, and rest. The coat grows in layers. A fine, dense undercoat sits close to the skin, while longer guard hairs extend outward, creating volume and softness. Together, these layers give the Persian its distinctive rounded outline, blurring the edges of the body and softening every line. Because of this structure, the coat carries presence. When a Persian lies down, the fur spreads outward, filling space before the body itself does. The cat appears larger at rest than in motion, not because of expansion, but because the coat relaxes and settles. This fur also adds weight, not heaviness in the sense of burden, but a gentle downward pull that encourages stillness. The coat drapes over the body, pressing lightly against the surface beneath. This sensation contributes to the Persian's preference for long periods of rest, as the body feels held rather than exposed. Shedding occurs gradually rather than in dramatic bursts. Loose hair accumulates slowly, often remaining within the coat rather than falling away immediately. This creates continuity. The coat changes with the seasons, but it does so quietly, without sharp transitions. In warmer months, the undercoat thins slightly, allowing more airflow near the skin. The overall length remains, but density shifts. In cooler months, fullness returns, increasing insulation and warmth. These changes are subtle and easy to miss unless observed over time. The coat also influences how Persians move. Long fur adds resistance to quick motion. When a Persian walks, the coat moves a fraction of a second behind the body, dampening speed and reinforcing a slower pace. This lag contributes to the impression of softness and deliberation. Touch is filtered through the coat. External contact rarely reaches skin directly. Hands encounter layers of fur before body heat or muscle tone. This buffering effect can make touch feel less intrusive, which may help explain why many Persians tolerate handling calmly when it is gentle and unhurried. The coat plays a role in temperature regulation as well. It traps warmth efficiently, especially when the cat is curled. This makes Persians particularly sensitive to ambient temperature. They seek cooler surfaces when warm and warmer surfaces when cool, adjusting position rather than shedding layers. Because the coat retains warmth and moisture, it also interacts closely with the skin beneath. Airflow becomes important. When the coat lies flat and undisturbed for long periods, the skin remains in a stable, enclosed environment. This supports comfort when conditions are balanced, but it also means the system depends on consistency. Self-grooming is part of how Persians manage this system, but it is not the only mechanism. The length and density of the fur make it difficult for cats to fully maintain the coat on their own. Human involvement becomes part of the system, not as correction, but as cooperation. Brushing removes loose hair before it compacts. It restores airflow and resets the coat structure. When done regularly, it supports the natural function of the fur rather than altering it. The coat also reflects the cat's overall state. Changes in texture, density, or behavior around grooming often appear gradually. Because the coat responds to health, environment, and routine, it acts as a quiet indicator of balance. At rest, the coat contributes to the Persian's sense of enclosure. The cat becomes wrapped in its own fur, insulated from movement and sound. This creates a boundary between the body and the outside world, reinforcing calm. Over time, this living system becomes part of the household rhythm. Brushing sessions mark time. Seasonal changes are felt through thickness and warmth. The coat becomes familiar, predictable, and reassuring. Understanding the Persian coat as a living system, rather than a surface feature, changes how it is perceived. It is not something separate from the cat. It is part of how the cat occupies space, regulates comfort, and remains still. In this way, the coat does not simply cover the Persian. It completes the body. It shapes movement. It holds warmth. And it supports the slow, steady rhythm that defines the Persian cat's way of being. Persian cats tend to experience time differently than more active or demanding breeds. Their days are shaped less by bursts of activity and more by long, uninterrupted stretches of rest, observation, and quiet presence. This rhythm plays an important role in how they handle solitude. When left alone for reasonable periods, most Persians remain composed. They sleep. They reposition themselves slowly from one resting place to another. They sit near windows and watch light move across the floor or shadows pass outside. Solitude, in itself, is not usually distressing for them. This comfort with being alone is closely tied to routine. Persians rely heavily on predictability. They notice when feeding times stay consistent. They recognize the usual sounds of a home settling in the evening. They become familiar with the pattern of someone leaving and returning. When these rhythms hold steady, solitude feels temporary rather than uncertain. During the day, a Persian may sleep for many hours, waking occasionally to stretch, groom lightly, or shift locations. Window watching often fills the space between naps. Rather than tracking movement with intensity, Persians tend to observe calmly, letting the world pass without feeling compelled to engage. Despite this independence, Persian cats form strong bonds with their people. Their attachment is not loud or demanding, but it is steady. They often choose specific resting spots that keep them near familiar scents or sounds. They may not follow someone from room to room, but they notice absence and presence with quiet awareness. Reunion is where this bond becomes most visible. When a familiar person returns home, Persians often respond in subtle ways. A lifted head, a slow blink, a gentle approach rather than a rush. They may settle nearby, leaning into proximity rather than seeking constant interaction. Evening is an especially important time. After long periods of daytime rest, Persians often become more socially receptive as the household quiets. This is when they may choose to sit beside someone, accept brushing, or simply share space. The reunion is not about excitement, but about re-establishing closeness. When routines are disrupted repeatedly, the effects tend to show gradually rather than immediately. If attention is consistently missed or schedules become unpredictable, some Persians may begin to gain weight due to reduced activity. Others may withdraw further into sleep or show less interest in interaction. These changes are usually subtle, emerging over time rather than as sudden behavioral shifts. Because Persians are calm by nature, signs of stress can be easy to overlook. They are unlikely to vocalize loudly or act out. Instead, stress may appear as changes in appetite, grooming habits, or posture. Maintaining regular points of connection helps prevent these slow accumulations. Connection does not need to be constant. Short, predictable moments of interaction often matter more than extended stimulation. A brief grooming session, a quiet presence on the couch, a few minutes of attention at the same time each evening. These small rituals reinforce security. Persians often seem to prefer being included rather than entertained. They may choose to rest nearby while someone reads or watches television. The shared environment itself becomes the interaction. This form of companionship suits their temperament and supports emotional balance. Over time, many owners notice that their Persian sense of time becomes closely aligned with theirs. They anticipate returns. They wait in familiar spots. They settle more deeply once routines resume. The bond is expressed through continuity rather than intensity. Understanding solitude and reunion in Persian cats means recognizing that their needs are quiet but consistent. They do not ask often, but they do notice. When their rhythms are respected, Persians tend to remain emotionally steady, comfortable with alone time, and warmly receptive when connection returns. In this balance between independence and attachment, Persian cats find a way of living that mirrors their overall nature. Unhurried, observant, and deeply shaped by the gentle repetition of shared days. Persian cats move through the world with a softened sensory filter. They are aware of their surroundings, but they do not react to every stimulus. Instead, sights, sounds, and textures seem to arrive gently, as if the environment is absorbed rather than confronted. Sound is experienced quietly. Persians notice changes in volume and tone, but they rarely respond with urgency. A door closing, a distant voice, the hum of an appliance. These sounds register, then fade into the background. Unless a noise is sudden or unfamiliar, it is often met with stillness rather than movement. Because of this, Persians tend to prefer environments where sound remains consistent. A steady household rhythm allows them to relax fully. When noise levels fluctuate wildly, they may withdraw to a quieter room rather than investigate. This is not avoidance, but a natural preference for calm auditory landscapes. Light is processed in a similar way. Persians often favor indirect or diffuse light over bright, direct illumination. They gravitate towards spaces where light spreads softly across surfaces instead of casting sharp contrasts. In these environments, their bodies appear to relax more completely, eyes half-lidded, posture loose. Sudden changes in lighting can prompt brief alertness. A lamp switching on in a dark room, sunlight breaking through a curtain. These moments are usually met with a slow blink or a small shift in position, rather than a startled response. Once the light stabilizes, the cat settles again. Touch is another important part of the Persian sensory world. Their dense coat buffers contact, filtering sensation before it reaches the skin. This often results in a higher tolerance for gentle handling, as touch feels less abrupt. Hands moving slowly through fur are accepted more readily than quick or unpredictable contact. Persians often respond best to touch that matches their own rhythm. Slow strokes, steady pressure, predictable movement. When contact follows this pattern, the body remains relaxed. When touch is sudden or insistent, the cat may simply move away rather than resist. Smell plays a quieter role as well. Persians use scent to recognize familiar people, objects, and spaces, but they rarely engage in active scent marking or investigation. They seem to prefer environments where familiar scents remain unchanged. New or strong odors may be met with disinterest rather than curiosity. This sensory moderation shapes how Persians interpret their surroundings. They are less likely to scan constantly for new information. Instead, they rely on familiarity and pattern recognition. Once a space is known, it becomes comfortable, and little effort is spent reassessing it. Because of this, Persians often appear deeply at ease in spaces they frequent. A favorite room becomes an extension of the body. Furniture feels known. Textures are anticipated. The environment fades into the background, allowing the cat to rest without vigilance. When changes do occur, Persians usually respond by slowing down. They observe first rather than acting. A new object may be watched from a distance. A rearranged room may be navigated cautiously at first. Once the change is understood, it is absorbed into the existing mental map. This measured response reduces sensory overload. Rather than reacting to every shift, Persians allow the world to settle before engaging with it. This approach supports their overall calm demeanor. In shared spaces, this sensory style influences human behavior as well. People often lower their voices unconsciously. Movements become slower. The presence of a Persian at rest encourages a quieter atmosphere. Over time, a mutual adjustment takes place. The cat adapts to the household, and the household adapts to the cat. Sensory input becomes predictable. Comfort deepens. Understanding the Persian sensory world helps explain why they thrive in stable, low-stimulation environments. They are not detached from their surroundings. They simply do not require constant input to feel secure. Their perception is broad but unhurried. They see, hear, and feel what they need to, then allow the rest to pass by without response. In this softened sensory space, the Persian cat remains present without tension. The world exists, it moves, and the cat, grounded and still, receives it quietly. Persian cats are not silent, but their communication is understated. They express themselves without urgency, often choosing stillness or proximity over sound. When a Persian does vocalize, it tends to be purposeful and restrained, rather than frequent or insistent. Most Persians use their voices sparingly. A soft meow may appear around feeding time or when a familiar person enters the room. The sound is usually low in volume and gentle in tone, more of a signal than a demand. Once acknowledged, the cat often falls quiet again. The quality of Persian vocalization is distinctive. Meows are often breathy, rounded, and brief. They do not carry far. Instead of cutting through space, the sound seems to settle within it. This suits the breed's overall presence, blending rather than competing with the environment. Many Persians communicate primarily through non-vocal means: a shift in position, a slow blink, a change in posture. These subtle cues convey interest, comfort, or mild request without sound. Eye contact plays a central role. Persians often hold a soft gaze, neither fixed nor avoidant. Slow blinking is common, signaling ease rather than alertness. These visual signals are easy to miss unless one is watching closely. Body orientation is another quiet form of communication. A Persian may turn its body slightly toward a person to indicate awareness. Settling nearby rather than directly on someone can express preference for shared space without physical contact. Distance itself becomes a message. Stillness is perhaps the most characteristic form of Persian communication. Remaining in place, relaxed and present, signals contentment. There is no need to perform or draw attention. The absence of movement is itself a statement of comfort. When Persians do become uncomfortable or overstimulated, they often respond by withdrawing rather than vocalizing. They may move to another room or reposition themselves away from activity. This quiet retreat maintains balance without confrontation. Communication around routine is similarly subtle. A Persian may appear in the kitchen at the same time each day, sit nearby, and wait. There may be no sound at all. The behavior itself communicates expectation. Over time, people living with Persians learn to recognize these patterns. They come to understand when the cat is asking for something, even without a vocal cue. This shared language develops slowly, built on observation rather than instruction. Persians rarely engage in prolonged vocal exchanges. They do not typically answer back repeatedly or escalate volume. If a need is not met, they often return to stillness rather than insistence. This restraint contributes to their reputation as calm companions. In multi-person households, Persians may adjust their communication style slightly depending on the individual. They learn who responds to proximity, who responds to sound, and who responds to touch. Their communication remains economical, adapting without excess. This style of interaction influences the atmosphere of a home. Rooms remain quieter. Sounds are not amplified, communication becomes more observational than reactive. For many people, this is part of what makes Persians feel soothing to be around. They do not demand attention through noise. They invite connection through presence. Understanding Persian communication means shifting focus away from sound. What matters is not how often the cat speaks, but how consistently it signals comfort, awareness, and preference through subtle means. In this way, Persian cats maintain dialogue without dialogue. They share space. They observe. They respond quietly. Communication flows, not through volume or repetition, but through a shared understanding that develops over time. Persian cats do not move through a home as explorers. They move through it as residents. Once a space becomes familiar, it is no longer something to investigate. It becomes something to inhabit. Rooms, furniture, and pathways settle into a quiet map that rarely needs updating. Persians tend to choose a small number of preferred areas rather than circulating through an entire home. A particular corner of the living room, a cushion that holds warmth, a section of floor where light falls at a certain time of day. These places are returned to again and again, reinforcing familiarity. Furniture is selected for stability rather than height. Wide couches, low beds, and solid chairs are favored over narrow shelves or tall perches. Persians seem to prefer surfaces that allow their whole body to rest without balancing or adjustment. Once a surface proves comfortable, it often becomes part of a daily routine. Movement between rooms follows predictable routes. Rather than cutting new paths, Persians reuse the same transitions. Doorways, hallways, corners where the turn feels natural. This repetition creates efficiency and reduces the need for constant environmental assessment. The layout of a home becomes internalized over time. A Persian knows where to walk without looking. They slow at familiar thresholds. They pause at the same spots before entering or leaving a room. These small behaviors signal comfort with the space rather than hesitation. Changes to the environment are noticed, but not dramatized. A moved chair, a new rug, a rearranged table. Persians often observe these changes from a distance before engaging. They may sit quietly and look, allowing the new configuration to exist without immediate interaction. Once the change proves stable, it is incorporated into the existing mental map. The cat adjusts routes and resting spots as needed, then returns to routine. There is little interest in novelty for its own sake. Stability remains the priority. Vertical space is used selectively. Persians may enjoy a windowsill or a low platform, especially if it offers light or warmth. However, they rarely seek height simply to be elevated. Height is valued when it supports rest or observation, not excitement. Floor-level spaces are often just as important. Quiet corners, open patches of carpet, areas beneath tables or near walls. These locations offer enclosure without isolation, allowing the cat to remain present while feeling secure. Persians also respond to the emotional tone of spaces. Rooms associated with calm activity tend to be favored. Areas with frequent movement or noise may be visited briefly, then left behind. The cat's presence often mirrors the energy of the space itself. Over time, Persians contribute to shaping how a home is used. certain chairs become unofficially reserved. Cushions are rearranged to accommodate shared space. Human movement subtly adapts around the cat's preferred areas. This mutual adjustment happens without instruction. The cat chooses. The household responds. Patterns form quietly because Persians rely so heavily on familiarity. They often appear deeply settled in homes where the layout remains consistent. They do not need stimulation to feel engaged. The space itself becomes enough. In multi-room homes, Persians may assign meaning to different areas. One room becomes a resting zone. Another becomes a place for evening proximity. A third may be used only occasionally. These distinctions remain stable over long periods. Understanding a Persian's relationship to living spaces helps explain their sense of calm. They are not constantly reassessing their environment. They are not scanning for opportunity or threat. They are living within known boundaries. A home, for a Persian, is not something to conquer or patrol. It is something to settle into. Once settled, movement becomes minimal, attention softens, and the space itself begins to feel quieter, shaped by the presence of a cat that knows exactly where it belongs. For Persian cats, routine is not restrictive. It is grounding. Their sense of comfort is closely tied to repetition. When daily patterns remain consistent, the environment feels settled, and the cat's body follows. Time becomes predictable, and predictability allows rest to deepen. Feeding times are one of the most noticeable anchors. Persians often seem to know when food is coming without watching the clock. They may appear in the same spot each day at nearly the same time and wait quietly. There is rarely urgency or vocal demand. The behavior itself signals expectation. This awareness extends beyond food. Persians notices the rhythm of a household. Morning light, midday quiet, evening routines. They learn when activity rises and when it fades. Once learned, these cycles are anticipated rather than questioned. Anticipation in Persians is calm. They do not pace or call out repeatedly. Instead, they wait. A cat may sit near a familiar location, eyes open but body relaxed, as if allowing the moment to arrive on its own. Because of this, disruptions to routine tend to be felt slowly, rather than immediately. A single late meal or a brief schedule change is usually absorbed without stress. The cat adjusts, rests, and continues on. Repeated disruptions, however, can begin to register. When patterns shift often, Persians may show subtle changes. They may sleep more during the day. They may linger longer in resting spots. These are not dramatic responses, but quiet attempts to regain balance. Environmental stability extends beyond timing into physical space. Persians respond well to layouts that remain consistent, furniture that stays in place, rooms that serve the same purpose day after day. These elements reduce the need for reassessment and allow the cat to remain mentally at ease. When changes do occur, Persians usually respond by observing rather than reacting. A moved object may be watched from a distance. A new sound may prompt a pause. Once the change proves stable, it is incorporated into the existing rhythm. Settling after disruption follows a familiar pattern. The cat returns to a known resting place. The body relaxes. Breathing slows. Stillness resumes. This ability to settle is one of the Persians' defining traits. They do not cling to routine out of anxiety. They rely on it as a framework for comfort. Routine also supports emotional balance. When days unfold in predictable ways, Persians appear more socially receptive. They approach people during familiar windows. They withdraw when rest is expected. This alignment reduces friction between the cat and its environment. In households with multiple people, routine often forms around shared activity. The cat learns when different individuals are present. It notices patterns of arrival and departure. These patterns become part of the daily rhythm, providing continuity even as individual interactions vary. Even small rituals matter. A specific chair where someone sits each evening. A quiet moment before bed. These repeated elements become signals that the day is moving toward rest. Over time, Persian cats seem to synchronize themselves with the pace of the home. They wake when activity rises. They rest when it slows. They do not force alignment. They follow it. This sensitivity to routine helps explain why Persians are often described as easy to live with. They do not demand novelty. They do not require constant engagement. They ask only for consistency. When routine holds, the environment feels secure. The cat's movements soften. Sleep deepens. Interaction becomes easier and more natural. In this way, routine acts as an invisible structure. It holds the day together. It supports calm without effort. And for the Persian cat, it becomes the quiet foundation on which comfort is built. Emotional expression in Persian cats is quiet, restrained, and easy to overlook. Rather than displaying feelings through exaggerated movement or sound, Persians communicate through small shifts in posture, gaze, and presence. Their emotional life is visible, but only to those who are willing to slow down and observe. The face plays an important role in this expression. Persian cats naturally appear soft and calm due to their rounded features, but subtle changes still occur. A relaxed face tends to sit evenly, with the cheeks loose and the eyes partially open or gently closed. When tension appears, it is often slight. The eyes may open wider, or the face may seem less settled, even if no sound is made. Eye contact is one of the clearest emotional signals. Persians often use slow blinking as a sign of comfort. The lids lower gradually, pause, and then lift again. This behavior indicates ease rather than sleepiness, and is commonly offered during moments of shared quiet. A steady, unblinking stare is rare and usually brief, used more for observation than confrontation. Body posture communicates as much as the face. A relaxed Persian holds its body close to the ground or surface beneath it. Limbs rest loosely, either tucked gently inward or extended without stiffness. The tail lies still, not flicking or swaying. Together, these cues suggest contentment and emotional balance. When discomfort or uncertainty arises, the changes are minimal. The body may tighten slightly. Limbs draw closer. The head may turn away rather than toward the source of stimulation. Rather than escalating, the cat chooses stillness or distance as a way to manage emotion. Movement, when used as expression, is slow. A Persian may reposition itself a short distance away to signal a desire for space. This movement is not abrupt. It is measured, giving the environment time to respond. Persians rarely use vocalization to express emotional distress. Instead, withdrawal is more common. They may leave a room quietly or settle in a more enclosed space. This behavior reflects a preference for self-regulation rather than confrontation. Comfort is expressed through proximity. A Persian that feels at ease may choose to sit near a person without making contact. The distance itself becomes meaningful, being close enough to share space, but not so close as to demand interaction. Touch further clarifies emotional state. A relaxed Persian accepts gentle handling without tension. The body remains loose. Breathing stays steady. If touch becomes overwhelming, the cat typically signals this by moving away rather than resisting. Emotional expression also unfolds over time. Persians do not shift moods rapidly. Feelings tend to settle slowly and remain stable. Once calm, the cat is likely to stay calm unless the environment changes significantly. This emotional steadiness contributes to the breed's reputation as soothing companions. Their presence does not amplify emotion in a space. Instead, it absorbs it. Tension often dissipates simply by sitting near them. Because their signals are subtle, Persian cats often require attentive observation. They do not announce needs loudly. They show them quietly. Over time, people living with Persians learn to read these cues naturally, responding without urgency or force. Understanding Persian emotional expression means accepting restraint as communication. The absence of dramatic behavior does not indicate a lack of feeling. It reflects a preference for calm regulation and minimal display. In this understated emotional language, Persian cats reveal a deep alignment with stillness. They express comfort through rest, discomfort through distance, connection through presence. Emotion, for a Persian, is not something to broadcast. It is something to live within, quietly shaping the way the body rests in the world. People often describe Persian cats as calming long before they understand why. The feeling emerges quickly, sometimes within moments of sharing a room. A sense that the space has softened, that movement has slowed, that attention has settled rather than scattered. This perception begins with appearance. The Persian's rounded body, thick coat, and gentle facial structure create a visual experience that feels contained and unthreatening. There are no sharp angles or exaggerated gestures. Even at rest, the cat appears complete, as though it has already arrived at stillness. Movement reinforces this impression. When a Persian changes position, the motion is deliberate and unhurried. There is no sudden acceleration, no sharp stop. The body transitions slowly, allowing the eye to follow without effort. This pace naturally invites observers to slow down as well. Stillness plays an equally important role. A Persian does not fill silence with activity. It remains at rest comfortably without appearing bored or restless. This kind of stillness is contagious. People nearby often find themselves lowering their voices, moving more gently, or pausing longer between actions. The coat adds another layer to human perception. Its density and volume soften the cat's outline, creating a visual buffer between the body and the environment. When a Persian lies down, the fur spreads outward, making the cat appear to occupy more space without tension. This presence feels steady rather than demanding. Facial expression further contributes to the effect. Large, round eyes and full cheeks give the face an open, neutral appearance. Even when alert, the expression rarely reads as intense. This neutrality allows people to project calm rather than urgency onto the cat. Touch deepens the experience. Contact with a Persian is filtered through layers of fur, slowing the sensation. Hands encounter warmth and softness before muscle or bone. This delay can have a regulating effect, encouraging gentler, more mindful interaction. Breathing patterns also influence perception. At rest, a Persian's breath is slow and even. Watching this rhythm can subtly affect the observer, drawing attention toward the body and away from thought. In quiet moments, the cat's breath becomes a visual anchor. This co-regulation happens without intention. The Persian does not attempt to soothe. It simply remains in its natural state. The human nervous system responds by matching that pace. Over time, this dynamic can shape daily routines. People may begin to associate certain moments of calm with the presence of their cat. Evenings become quieter. Mornings start more slowly. The cat's rhythm weaves itself into the household's emotional pattern. The calming perception of Persians is not rooted in passivity. They are aware, observant, and responsive. What distinguishes them is their lack of urgency. They do not rush to meet stimulation. They allow it to come and go. This quality can be especially noticeable in busy environments. A Persian resting in a room where activity continues provides contrast. The cat becomes a point of stillness amid motion. Eyes are drawn to it repeatedly, each glance offering a small reset. Human perception is also shaped by predictability. Persians behave in ways that are consistent over time. Their responses do not fluctuate dramatically. This reliability creates trust and reduces the need for constant interpretation. As a result, people often feel at ease around Persians without understanding why. The cat does not demand attention or create emotional spikes. It offers a steady presence that supports calm simply by existing. This perception extends beyond individual interactions. Persians have been depicted in art and photography as symbols of domestic quiet. Their image evokes still rooms, soft light, and unhurried time. These associations reinforce the experience people have in real life. Understanding why Persians feel calming helps explain their enduring appeal. They are not entertainers. They are companions in stillness. Their influence is subtle. They do not change the world around them through action. They change it through presence. In this quiet exchange between cat and human, both settle. Movement slows, attention narrows, and the space they share becomes gentler, shaped by a body that has no need to hurry. Persian cats relate to humans through presence rather than pursuit. Their social orientation is defined less by interaction and more by shared space. They do not seek constant engagement, but they notice where people are and choose how close they want to be. Attachment in Persians tends to form quietly. They recognize familiar individuals through routine, scent, and voice. And over time, they establish preferred distances. This distance is rarely zero. Instead of climbing onto laps or demanding attention, many Persians position themselves nearby, close enough to share the environment without interrupting it. Proximity becomes the primary expression of connection. A Persian may settle on the same couch at the opposite end, or on the floor beside a chair. The exact position matters less than the shared moment. Being present is the interaction. This style of companionship is often described as parallel. The cat and human occupy the same space, each engaged in their own activity, without pressure to synchronize. A person may read or watch television. The cat rests or observes. Neither demands anything from the other. Persians tend to be selective about when they seek contact. They often approach during calm moments, when movement slows and voices soften. Busy or energetic periods are more likely to be spent at a distance, where the cat can remain included without being overwhelmed. Touch, when invited, is usually brief and measured. A Persian may accept a few strokes, then reposition. This is not rejection. It reflects a preference for moderation. The bond is maintained through consistency rather than intensity. Because Persians communicate subtly, their social needs can appear minimal. In reality, they are attentive to patterns of presence and absence. They notice when someone is regularly nearby and when they are not. They adjust their resting locations accordingly. Many Persians develop strong bonds with one or two individuals in a household. This bond is expressed through proximity, eye contact, and shared routine, rather than overt affection. The cat may choose to rest near a specific person at the same time each day, reinforcing connection through repetition. This social orientation makes Persians well suited to quiet households. They do not require constant stimulation or validation. They are content to coexist, drawing comfort from predictable companionship. When left alone, Persians generally remain emotionally steady, especially when routines are consistent. They do not typically display separation behaviors. However, they do respond to reunion through subtle shifts in attention and placement. A Persian may move closer after someone returns. It may choose a resting spot within view or reach. These small changes signal recognition and renewed connection. In shared spaces, Persians often act as social anchors. They remain still while others move around them. Their presence offers continuity as people come and go. This role does not require interaction. It relies on steadiness. The cat remains where it is, observing without intervening. Over time, humans often adapt to this form of companionship. They stop expecting constant engagement. They begin to value quiet presence. The relationship becomes less about doing and more about being. Understanding the Persian social orientation means letting go of the idea that affection must be demonstrative. Connection can exist without touch. Bonding can happen without play. Closeness does not need to be loud. For Persians, companionship is expressed through shared stillness, through occupying the same room, through remaining near without obligation. In this quiet social arrangement, trust builds slowly and deeply. The relationship is not fueled by excitement. It is sustained by time. And over time, that steady presence becomes one of the most enduring aspects of life with a Persian cat. In homes with more than one person, Persian cats often reveal the depth of their observational nature. Rather than attaching themselves equally to everyone, they tend to distribute their attention carefully. forming quiet preferences without creating tension or competition. Persians are attentive to patterns of behavior. They notice who moves quickly and who moves slowly, who speaks softly and who fills a room with sound, who sits still in the evenings and who passes through briefly. These observations shape how the cat positions itself within the household. Bonding in multi-person homes is usually selective rather than exclusive. A Persian may favor one individual for proximity during rest, while remaining comfortable around others without seeking closeness. This does not signal avoidance or disinterest. It reflects a natural tendency to conserve emotional energy and direct it where familiarity feels strongest. Often, Persians choose one or two people as points of reference. These individuals may share consistent routines with the cat. They may be present during quiet times of day. They may move in ways that align with the cat's preferred pace. Over time, the Persian gravitates toward them without announcement. At the same time, Persians generally remain socially tolerant. They do not challenge or guard favored people. They do not attempt to control access or assert dominance through behavior. Their social style is non-confrontational, allowing them to remain at ease in shared environments. In group settings, Persians frequently position themselves slightly apart. They observe conversations rather than joining them. They choose vantage points that allow visual access without being in the center of activity. From these positions, they remain present without becoming involved. This tendency can give the impression of distance, but it is better understood as selective engagement. Persians prefer to absorb the atmosphere of a room rather than participate in it directly. They read the emotional tone and settle where it feels most stable. Changes in household composition are noticed, but not dramatized. New people are often watched quietly at first. The cat may remain in a familiar spot, observing movement and sound without approaching. Once patterns become predictable, the new presence is absorbed into the cat's understanding of the home. Children are often treated with cautious tolerance. Persians may observe from a distance, engaging only when movement slows and volume decreases. This is not fear, but discernment. The cat waits for conditions that match its own rhythm. In contrast, individuals who move slowly or sit for extended periods may find a Persian nearby more often. The cat responds to stillness by offering proximity. Shared calm becomes the basis of interaction. In multi-person homes, routines help maintain emotional balance. When feeding, resting, and quiet times remain consistent, Persians navigate social complexity with ease. They know when interaction is likely and when rest will be uninterrupted. During moments of household activity, Persians often remain neutral. They do not attempt to mediate or withdraw dramatically. They simply hold their position, maintaining a sense of continuity as others move around them. This steadiness can influence the household dynamic. People may find themselves adjusting behavior unconsciously when the cat is nearby. Voices soften, movement slow. The Persian becomes a quiet, stabilizing presence amid variety. Over time, Persians in multi-person homes often develop a layered relationship structure. Primary attachment is expressed through proximity to one or two individuals. Secondary familiarity extends to others through shared space and routine. The cat remains socially integrated without being socially demanding. Understanding this dynamic helps set appropriate expectations. Persians are not indifferent. They are discerning. Their affection is expressed through consistency rather than enthusiasm. In a home with many people, the Persian cat becomes a constant. Faces change, voices overlap, schedules shift. Yet the cat's presence remains steady, anchored in familiar rhythms. In this way, Persian cats demonstrate a unique social intelligence. They navigate complexity through observation rather than action. They maintain connection without friction, and they create a sense of calm continuity, even in spaces filled with many lives moving at once. As Persian cats age, change arrives gradually. There is no sudden break between youth and maturity, no sharp line dividing one stage of life from the next. Instead, small shifts accumulate quietly, reshaping daily rhythms without altering the core of who the cat is. Movement is often the first area where age becomes visible. Steps slow slightly, transitions take longer. Where a younger Persian might rise with a single motion, an older cat may pause, gathering itself before standing. These changes are subtle and easy to miss when they happen over months or years. Rest becomes more central with time. Sleep periods lengthen. The spaces between movement widen. Older Persians may remain in the same resting spot for much of the day, adjusting position rather than relocating. This is not withdrawal. It reflects an increasing efficiency in choosing comfort. Preferred resting zones often become more defined. Warm, quiet areas take priority. Soft surfaces that support the body evenly are returned to again and again. Once a spot proves comfortable, it may become a long-term anchor. Grooming behavior may shift as well. Older Persians often groom more slowly or less thoroughly, especially in hard-to-reach areas. They may pause more frequently during grooming, resting between movements. These changes occur gradually and mirror broader shifts in energy rather than a loss of awareness. The coat itself often reflects these transitions. Texture may change slightly. Fullness may redistribute. These variations are part of the natural aging process and tend to stabilize once the cat settles into a new rhythm. Social patterns usually remain consistent. Older Persians continue to value proximity without demand. They may seek quiet companionship more frequently, choosing to rest near familiar people for longer stretches. Interaction remains gentle and measured. Sensitivity to routine often increases with age. Older Persians rely even more on predictability. Consistent feeding times, familiar layouts, and steady daily patterns help maintain comfort. Disruptions may take longer to absorb, prompting longer rest periods afterward. Despite these changes, emotional expression remains familiar. The same subtle cues are used: a relaxed posture, a gentle gaze, stillness as a sign of contentment. Age does not alter the Persian's fundamental way of communicating. What changes is pace. The world moves a little faster than the cat does. In response, the Persian moves less, not out of inability, but out of preference. Periods of alertness still appear. An older Persian may lift its head to observe activity, then settle again. Awareness remains present even as movement decreases. The cat remains engaged without needing to act. Because aging is gradual, it often feels seamless within the household. People adjust without noticing they are adjusting. Furniture is rearranged slightly. Resting spots are made more accessible. The environment adapts in small ways. This mutual adaptation reinforces the bond between cat and home. The Persian is not required to change abruptly. It is allowed to deepen into rest. Aging also brings a greater sense of continuity. Daily patterns become more pronounced. Evenings arrive in familiar ways. Mornings unfold slowly. Time feels less segmented and more cyclical. In many homes, older Persians become quiet markers of time. Their presence signals when the house is settling. Their rest mirrors the stillness of late hours. They embody the rhythm of long, shared days. Understanding aging in Persians means recognizing that slowing is not loss. It is refinement. Movement becomes purposeful. Rest becomes essential. Presence becomes deeper. The Persian cat does not fade with age. It settles. As years pass, the body finds its preferred balance. The environment adjusts to support it. And the rhythm that has always defined the Persian simply grows quieter, more stable, and more complete. For Persian cats, health is rarely something that dominates the foreground of daily life. It exists quietly, woven into routine rather than standing apart from it. Well-being unfolds over time, shaped by consistency, environment, and the slow accumulation of ordinary days. Persians tend to experience health as a long, gradual process, rather than a series of sudden events. Their bodies change slowly, and the signals they give are often subtle. Because of this, health is best understood through observation, rather than reaction. What matters most is familiarity with the cat's normal rhythms. Daily patterns offer the clearest reference point. Eating habits, resting positions, grooming behavior, and movement all establish a baseline. When these patterns remain steady, the body is usually at ease. When they shift, even slightly, the change is often meaningful. This does not mean that every variation signals a problem. Persians naturally move through cycles of rest and alertness. They sleep deeply, reposition slowly, and conserve energy. Understanding this helps prevent unnecessary concern and keeps attention focused on changes that persist rather than momentary fluctuations. Preventive care fits naturally into this long-view approach. Rather than responding only when something feels urgent, care becomes part of the calendar. Routine veterinary visits create a rhythm of monitoring that mirrors the Persian's own steady pace. These visits establish continuity, allowing small changes to be noticed early and addressed calmly. For the cat, this consistency matters. Persians tend to tolerate familiar experiences well, especially when they are introduced gently and repeated over time. A clinic visit that follows a predictable pattern becomes less disruptive than one that arrives unexpectedly. The body remains composed. Recovery is quick. Health considerations associated with Persians are often discussed in lists, but lived experience feels different. Most days are ordinary. The cat rests, it eats, it observes. Care exists in the background, supporting these activities rather than interrupting them. Many physical changes appear gradually as part of aging. Movement slows. Rest periods lengthen. The coat may change in texture or density. These shifts are not failures of health, but natural adjustments that come with time. What supports well-being during these transitions is continuity. Maintaining familiar routines allows the body to adapt without stress. Small environmental adjustments are often enough. Softer resting surfaces, easier access to favorite spots, stable feeding schedules. Observation remains central. Because Persians are calm by nature, discomfort rarely presents as agitation or vocal distress. Instead, it may appear as subtle withdrawal, increased sleep, or changes in grooming. These cues are easy to miss unless the cat is known well. This is where shared time becomes valuable. Living alongside a Persian day after day creates an intuitive understanding of what is typical. A slight change in posture or routine stands out not because it is dramatic, but because it contrasts with long-established patterns. Healthcare, in this context, becomes a form of listening. It involves noticing what remains the same and what quietly shifts. It requires patience rather than urgency. The environment plays an ongoing role in maintaining balance. Persians are sensitive to temperature, noise, and disruption. Stable indoor conditions reduce physical strain and support regular rest. When the environment remains predictable, the body has fewer demands placed on it. Over years, this approach often leads to a sense of steadiness. The cat moves through life without constant interruption. Care is present, but it does not define the experience of living with the cat. Health remains part of the story, but never the whole story. It does not replace personality, presence, or rhythm. It supports them quietly. Understanding health as background context allows the Persian to remain what it has always been: a calm presence in the home, a body moving gently through time, a companion whose well-being is sustained not by constant attention, but by familiarity, routine, and a shared pace of life. In this way, health does not stand apart from daily living. It is held within it. Persian cats have traveled widely, but their presence has remained remarkably consistent. Across countries, climates, and centuries, they have appeared not as working animals or symbols of power, but as companions associated with quiet domestic life. As long-haired cats moved from the regions historically linked to Persia into Europe, they carried with them an air of rarity. Their coats and calm demeanor distinguished them from the short-haired cats common in streets, farms, and ports. This difference shaped how people perceived them, not as animals of labor, but as animals of presence. In European households of the 18th and 19th centuries, Persians became associated with interior spaces. They appeared in private rooms rather than public yards. They were depicted resting on furniture near windows or beside people engaged in reading or conversation. These images reinforce the idea of the Persian as a companion meant for still environments. Paintings and illustrations from this period often place Persian cats in moments of pause. They are not shown hunting or moving quickly. They are shown settled, curled on cushions, watching quietly from the edge of a scene. The cat's role is not to act, but to complete the atmosphere of the space. As Persian cats spread beyond Europe, similar patterns emerged. In North America, they were quickly embraced as indoor companions. Early cat fanciers emphasized their calm temperament and suitability for domestic life. Their popularity grew not because they performed tasks, but because they fit easily into homes. Across cultures, Persians have often been associated with refinement, but not extravagance. Their appeal lies in softness rather than display. They do not dominate a room. They settle into it. Photography in the 20th century continued this theme. Persian cats appeared in quiet domestic scenes, sitting on armchairs, resting near fireplaces, framed by soft light. These images shaped public perception, reinforcing the breed's association with calm and comfort. In modern times, Persians remain globally popular, yet their cultural role has not shifted dramatically. They are still viewed as companions rather than entertainers. Their appeal transcends language and region because their presence communicates something universally understood: stillness. Different cultures may emphasize different aspects of the Persian's appearance. Some focus on coat color and fullness. Others favor particular facial profiles. Yet the underlying impression remains the same. The Persian is seen as a cat that belongs indoors, in quiet spaces, alongside people. In homes around the world, Persians often occupy similar roles regardless of location. They rest near windows. They observe household activity without joining it. They share space without demanding attention. This consistency suggests that the breed's cultural identity is rooted less in tradition and more in lived experience. Persians also appear frequently in domestic symbolism. They are associated with calm evenings, private rooms, and unhurried time. Their image evokes rest rather than motion, presence rather than action. This symbolism persists even in media and popular culture. When a Persian cat appears in a story or image, it often signals softness or quiet luxury, not excitement. The cat becomes a visual shorthand for stillness. What is notable is how little this perception has changed over time. Despite shifts in living spaces, technology, and daily pace, the Persian cat continues to occupy the same conceptual role: a steady presence, a companion suited to calm interiors. Across cultures, the Persian cat has not needed reinvention. It has simply continued to be itself: settled, observant, unhurried. This continuity helps explain the breed's enduring appeal. While trends in pets rise and fall, the Persian remains recognizable, not because it adapts dramatically to culture, but because culture repeatedly adapts to it. Wherever Persian cats appear, they bring with them the same quiet contribution. They soften rooms, they slow moments. They exist comfortably within the shared human experience of home. In this way, Persian cats do not belong to any single culture. They belong to domestic life itself, wherever quiet companionship is valued. Modern indoor life suits Persian cats in ways that feel almost intuitive. While the world outside has changed dramatically, the interior spaces humans now inhabit align closely with the Persian's long-established preferences for calm, consistency, and comfort. Persians adapt well to a range of living spaces, from small apartments to larger houses. What matters less is size, and more the quality of the environment. Quiet rooms, predictable layouts, and stable routines provide the foundation they need to remain settled. In apartments, Persians often claim a few key areas rather than roaming widely: a couch near a window, a bed that holds warmth, a corner where movement is minimal. These spaces become the center of daily life, reducing the need for constant navigation. Larger homes offer more choice, but the pattern remains similar. Persians tend to select specific rooms and ignore others. Once preferences are established, they rarely change unless the environment shifts significantly. Familiarity remains the priority. Noise tolerance in Persians is moderate. They are not easily startled by everyday household sounds, but they do not thrive in constant noise. Televisions, appliances, and conversations are absorbed when they follow a predictable pattern. Sudden or irregular noise is more likely to prompt withdrawal than reaction. Technology has become a natural part of the modern home, and Persians coexist with it quietly. Screens glow nearby, keyboards click, devices hum. The cat remains present, resting or observing without engaging. Light from screens often draws little response. Persians tend to prefer ambient light rather than bright displays. They may position themselves just outside the direct glow, choosing spaces where light softens rather than intensifies. Evening routines in modern homes often align closely with the Persian's rhythm. As activity slows, the cat becomes more visible. It may move closer to shared spaces, settle near people, or choose a resting spot within view. This gradual re-emergence mirrors the household's transition toward rest. Modern indoor life also emphasizes climate control. Temperature stability benefits Persians, whose dense coats retain warmth efficiently. They respond well to environments that avoid extremes, where comfort remains consistent throughout the day. Indoor air quality matters as well. Persians appear most at ease in spaces with steady airflow and minimal irritants. Clean, predictable air supports their preference for stillness without strain. Furniture choices in modern homes often unintentionally support Persian comfort. Wide couches, soft chairs, and layered bedding offer ideal resting surfaces. Persians quickly incorporate these elements into their routines, returning to the same spots day after day. In homes where schedules are busy, Persians tend to anchor themselves to quiet moments. They do not compete for attention during activity. Instead, they wait until movement slows and space opens. Their presence becomes more noticeable when the home becomes calmer. The adaptability of Persians to modern life does not come from flexibility alone. It comes from alignment. Modern indoor living, with its emphasis on comfort and routine, mirrors the environment Persians have been shaped for over generations. This alignment reduces conflict. The cat does not need to adjust its nature to fit the home. The home already supports the cat's rhythm. Over time, Persians often become woven into modern routines seamlessly. They are there during quiet mornings. They remain during long afternoons. They reappear in the evenings as the house settles. Their role is not to entertain or demand engagement. It is to accompany, to share space, to remain. In modern indoor life, the Persian cat continues to do what it has always done best: occupy space gently, rest deeply, and exist comfortably within the slow, steady rhythm of home. The bond between humans and Persian cats often forms quietly without a clear beginning. It develops through shared time rather than shared activity, and it deepens through familiarity rather than excitement. Many people find themselves attached before they realize a bond has taken shape. Persian cats offer companionship that does not demand emotional energy. They are present without requiring attention, and this presence becomes grounding over time. In moments of stress or fatigue, the cat's stillness provides contrast, reminding the household to slow down. Predictability plays a central role in this attachment. Persians behave in consistent ways. They rest in the same places. They appear during familiar moments. This reliability builds trust, allowing people to feel at ease around them, without anticipating sudden demands. Evenings often become the most emotionally resonant time. As the day's movement fades, Persians tend to position themselves nearby. They may sit at the edge of a room, rest on a familiar surface, or simply remain within view. These quiet gestures create a sense of shared winding down. Touch, when it occurs, reinforces the bond gently. Petting a Persian is rarely hurried. Hands move slowly through dense fur. The rhythm of contact often mirrors the rhythm of breathing. These moments invite calm rather than excitement. Many people describe feeling less alone in the presence of a Persian, even when no interaction is happening. The cat's quiet awareness fills space without intruding. It acknowledges presence without needing to respond. This form of attachment is especially supportive during still moments. Reading, watching television, preparing for sleep. The cat's presence becomes part of the background of these routines, woven into the fabric of daily life. Persians also provide emotional continuity. They remain when other elements of life change. Schedules shift, spaces evolve, the cat stays familiar. This constancy can be deeply comforting. Unlike animals that mirror human emotion with intensity, Persians offer steadiness. They do not amplify stress or excitement. They remain calm regardless of mood. This emotional neutrality allows people to regulate themselves in response. Over time, people often begin to match the Persian's rhythm. They sit longer. They move more deliberately. They speak more softly. The cat's influence becomes reciprocal. Attachment also deepens through shared silence. Not every bond requires conversation or activity. Sometimes, simply occupying the same space is enough. Persians excel in these quiet connections. During nighttime, this bond often feels strongest. As lights dim and rooms quiet, the Persian may settle into a familiar spot nearby. The presence feels protective, not in an active sense, but in its reliability. The cat is there. It has been there before. It will be there again. This emotional anchoring does not rely on overt affection. It relies on repetition, on the comfort of knowing what to expect, on the ease of shared stillness. Understanding the attachment between humans and Persians means recognizing that it grows through ordinary moments. It is built in pauses, in routines, in quiet observation. The Persian cat does not seek to become the center of emotional life. It simply occupies space within it. And in doing so, it often becomes one of the most stable and comforting presences a person can share their home with. As the day settles, the Persian cat returns fully to stillness. The body lowers into a familiar place, weight spreading evenly across the surface beneath it. There is no adjustment needed. The space already knows the shape. Breathing slows. Each rise of the chest is gentle and unforced. The coat lifts slightly with the inhale, then settles again as the air leaves. Nothing else moves. Limbs relax where they fall. Paws rest without tension. The tail lies quiet, no longer signaling or responding. Muscle softens into support rather than readiness. Heat gathers slowly. The cat's warmth meets the fabric or floor beneath it, creating a small pocket of comfort that remains undisturbed. The body does not shift to seek more. It stays. Eyes closed, not tightly, but loosely. Awareness drifts without disappearing entirely. Sounds continue in the distance, but they no longer matter. The world can move without asking for attention. In this moment, there is no history and no future. No routine to anticipate. No change to observe. Only presence. The Persian cat rests the way it always has, without urgency, without effort, as though stillness itself is a familiar place. The room grows quieter around that rest. Time stretches, the body remains, and gradually, without any signal that it has begun, the moment deepens into sleep.